Welcome back. I'm hoping it's welcome back, or welcome for the first time to What's the Story? This is What's the Story on the People Chronicles. And this week's edition, I suspect, is going to touch a whole lot of lives, perhaps yours as well. We do an interesting story or explore a story each and every week here on the People Chronicles. I hope you've made that a favorite on your website. And today our guest is Dr. Gregory Bach. And Dr. Bach, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having us.
And also joining us is your wife, Deborah Bach.
Yes, I'm over here. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
You're
do
welcome.
Appreciate that. And I must tell you that one of our listeners to the podcast here on the People Chronicles suggested that I reach out to you and please get your story. So I thought, all right, I went to your website, I looked you up, I Googled you, and you are a Lyme disease expert, not just an expert, but a highly sought after expert.
Yes, my background is a very interesting background if you want me to.
Family medicine, addiction medicine.
And integrative medicine. I'm triple boarded. There's 55,000 physicians in the state of Pennsylvania, and only probably less than maybe a dozen have triple boarding. So,
what does triple boarding mean?
Everybody usually is boarded in one subject. I'm boarded in 3 separate individual subjects. So I'm boarded in family medicine. Addiction medicine is my second board certification. My third board certification is integrative medicine. But my fourth area of expertise is tick-borne diseases, Lyme disease.
Is it the integrative medicine that would lend itself to Lyme disease?
Actually, all my degrees lend them out. Yes. And I can just break that down in the fact that the number one person that's going to interact with cases of Lyme disease would be like the family practitioner. He'd be on the front line. People that have addictions, we see addictions are associated with tick-borne diseases. So that my addiction degree came in.
Addictions to pain medications, possibly?
Addictions to food, alcohol, drugs, whatever.
Okay.
Any kind of addiction. The third...
Why is that? Why are people with addictions more susceptible to Lyme disease?
Because of the maybe breakdown or compromise in their immune system when they get sick. People tend to, first of all, try to self-medicate. If they have a headache, they take aspirin, and then they're trying to adjust themselves. We see a lot associated smoking and alcohol addiction with tick-borne diseases. And I'll give you a statistic. Out of 50% of the cases that I see that come to my office, the half that come have cigarette addiction. After we treat them adequately for the tick-borne disease, almost 90% of them just quit on their own, so it stops smoking.
So the tick-borne disease aggravates or exacerbates the addiction.
Yes.
So many people suffer from Lyme disease. I think it's probably safe to venture to say everybody knows somebody who has suffered from Lyme disease, and it seems to be ambiguous, and it seems that those who have it, either they're cured like that, I got some antibiotics, I'm all good, had a tick bite, went away, or it fatigues them for years and years and years, and nobody, I shouldn't say nobody, doctors have a difficult time diagnosing it, treating it, and the stories that you hear are, boy, I keep jumping from this doctor, and they're on the web, and they're searching for the right doctor because it's not diagnosed properly, or there is no relief from these symptoms. So that leads me to believe there's some confusion in the medical community, and it begs the question, how did you become an expert? Where did this begin?
Actually, what happened was I had to become an expert when I was in medical school in Des Moines, Iowa. My lovely wife had become sick the first year, and I remember it was the fall, and she started having problems with her sight. She was having visual problems. Light was bothering her. And we took her to the medical campus where I was going to school in Des Moines, Iowa. And they said, your wife is going blind, and she has severe macular degeneration. So we didn't know anything about that, but prior to that event, before we had moved, we were in the Cherry Hill, New Jersey area before going out to Des Moines, Iowa. She was also having some hearing difficulties, and her local physician diagnosed it as a cerumen impaction, something like that.
A what?
Cerumen or wax impaction in her ear.
Okay.
But actually what it was, that Lyme can affect all your cranial nerves, it can affect your sight, your hearing, many different things that occur in your body. So she was starting to break down.
Wait a minute. Deborah.
Yes, ma'am.
You're losing your hearing.
Yes.
And then you moved from Cherry Hill to Iowa, and you're having difficulty seeing.
Yeah.
What are the doctors telling you? Is it wax impaction, and why were you going blind? What was the reason?
They didn't have an answer to that one. They didn't know.
Is diabetes, anything like
Nope.
that? There was
Nothing. No answer.
speculation?
Nope. For the hearing, they told me to take minerals and it would go away.
Well,
Mineral.
Yeah, it was kind of. You got to remember, we went from an area on the coast where people were more educated about tick-borne diseases, and then moved to the Midwest where they were less. But in medical school, I had a neurology professor that was similar to my age. I went to medical school at 30. I was a builder before I went to school.
Goodness.
So I was working my way through medical school, working on houses at night and going to school in the day. And so I kind of knocked heads with him, and I said, look, we're from the East. I think that she has Lyme disease. We know about
you
this.
speculated.
We
Lyme
already
disease.
knew that was what we thought
Why?
it was.
Well, I was a dog trainer at that time.
Oh.
Mercer County Park, all the parks in New Jersey.
Well, did you at any point have the bullseye everybody talks about? Did you pull ticks off your body?
Lots of ticks, but I don't remember a bullseye.
But my wife is very intuitive. And while she was sick and she was losing her hearing, she showed me a Red Book article, and it said Lyme disease, the new imitator.
What year is this?
1988, 89.
Somewhere around there.
And so I read this article, and I was very intrigued by it. So I kept taking the article and taking this hypothesis out to the doctors that we would see for her. And they said, well, we don't know about this. However, the neurologists started a little bit of a turf war because we were similar in age. And I had a master's degree at that time before I went into medical school. So I had an education. Mm-hmm. And I challenged him a little bit. And I said, could we please get a Lyme disease test? And he said, I will not even waste the money.
Yeah, you refused.
Lyme cannot affect your sight or hearing. And I said, please, sir, my wife is dying. She's very sick. Could you please just run the test? And he said he's not going to do it.
What is the test? What are they testing when they run in Lyme disease?
The problem with the testing, there's two tiers of testing. One's called an ELISA, which is just an open and shut yes or no answer for the organism being present. And then the second one, or this tier 2, is called a Western blot, where you're actually looking for specific antibodies to the makeup of the different sections of the organism.
It's a blood test.
Correct. I'm sorry.
Isn't the ELISA test kind of outdated, though?
Well, the ELISA, I wrote a paper on the ELISA test, and I found that if the ELISA test does show positive, you got about a 90% chance of having it.
Is it true that today, we're talking 20-some years ago, is it true that today you can think, I had a tick, or possibly I did, and I had these symptoms, so I want to test? That test can show false negatives and false positives, so it's not really
more relevant for false negatives. What basically has happened, the tests got hijacked because they didn't want to take on a new disease state. AIDS, insurance companies, providers, they had to. The government came in and said, "Look, we're going to make you take care of AIDS patients," and there was a big Americans with Disabilities Act.
That was, yeah.
And then, thank God, AIDS had the wonderful people in Hollywood come out and protest to help these poor people dying from these diseases. And so Lyme became an orphan disease, so to speak, because if the insurance company said, okay, we'll take this, we're not going to take on any other
when you say
forced diseases.
We'll take it, they would acknowledge it as
and pay
an
for
insurable
it. Right, exactly.
Disease or an incurable.
And that's where the Americans with Disabilities Act, federal act, says that if you have AIDS, you are by law protected, and they are required to help you with your disease.
So the doctor would not give you the test?
No.
Was it expensive at the time? And what's the reason? Because insurance wouldn't cover it?
Because unfortunately, I must have ruffled his feathers.
Stepped on his toes. Yeah.
And
can I say something?
Go ahead, please.
Lyme disease is the only disease, in order to get treated, you have to have a positive test. no other disease. You can get millions of dollars worth of treatment for chronic fatigue, MS, that has no proven treatment, but you don't need any test to prove you have it. And your
I pulled a
insurance is
tick
paid.
off my body about, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago. Obviously went to the doctor, didn't have a rash of anything, but I pulled a tick off.
Correct.
So I'm thinking, and I had the test. And the doctor said, well, we can give you the test, but it doesn't really necessarily mean anything.
And you know what?
I was befuddled by that. What?
But that's an honest response, and we'll push forward now to the future. Our very good governor, Corbett, who's running for re-election, just passed Act 83. This act gives Pennsylvanians the right to be treated as long as they need to get better versus the standard 2 weeks and you're cured. So it opens up the door now to allow people to have interaction with their doctors.
When did this happen?
Within the last 60 days.
And
It took 19 years to get a bill through in the state of Pennsylvania.
Act 83. So
Correct.
this means that doctors or insurance companies must acknowledge it? What does it mean?
What it means is before, the doctors would actually become under the radar scope and then be persecuted if you treated people for more than 2 weeks with antibiotics. So it
By
created
the
this.
insurance companies?
Yes, and by the state medical board.
They lose their
And,
licenses, some of
Yeah,
them.
and could be put in jail. So it became like the sub-underground of how AIDS were before the Americans with Disabilities Act came through. So it was a very daunting task to be a Lyme
This
doctor.
is why
and
patients are jumping from doctor to doctor?
Yeah, because-
looking for somebody to treat them?
not only that, but the doctors are not educated. So I'm now chairman of the subcommittee for the educational component of Act 83 for the state of Pennsylvania, and that's law now. And I'm writing the information to help educate the other 55,000 physicians in the state and give them a broad-based education so they'll know exactly what to look for, how to go about it. It's been lacking in their education because of politics.
And
not
no
just-
longer persecuted because they're
Correct.
treating it.
Correct.
So they're, in other words, safe
Correct.
to treat it. How about insurance companies? Are they coming around to making this a coverable diagnosis?
Well, some are. There's about 12 states that already have laws in that it's absolutely the insurance companies have to cover it. We're in the middle in our state where we are opening up the educational door, or this Act 83 committee that I'm on is going to give the information to the governor next year, and then it will create a broad-based informational center to teach the physicians. The physicians weren't being taught because they didn't want the physicians to do diagnosis, so then they would have to pay for it.
The other thing is it's not just Lyme disease we're seeing anymore. We're seeing other diseases with the same tick bite.
There's probably about 20 to 30 other what we call co-infections: babesiosis, ehrlichiosis, chlamydia pneumoniae, mycoplasma pneumoniae, parvovirus, Epstein-Barr virus,
Spotted
HSV1,
fever.
Rocky Mountain spotted
There
fever.
are so many here.
Dozens.
You've opened quite a door. I wasn't aware of Act
Yes.
83, so I thank you for sharing
Matter of-
that. And Act 83 is the beginning of education.
Yes, for
which
Pennsylvania.
is an excellent start for doctors and hope for patients here in
That is
Pennsylvania. We'll be back and find out more about Lyme disease, what you can do if you suspect you have it, and how you can get proper treatment here on the People Chronicles. This is What's the Story? Our guest this afternoon, Dr. Gregory Bach and his wife, Deborah Bach.
Thank you.